All right, rolling session 182, First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, the official podcast of WFAT. This is a long time coming. Our guest today, Quinn Thompson, he's with the Whitecaps. He's a technical director with Whitecaps FC out in Vancouver, has a ton of roles, a lot of pieces to what he does, overseeing roster construction, salary, budget, player relations, player recruitment strategy, interactions, obviously, on and off the pitch with both playing personnel and personnel, technical, sport medicine, strength and conditioning, all of these things. So first off, thanks for joining us, Quinn. Our audience will get a little bit of insight from your perspective, a little bit different than the practitioner perspective, but certainly some interactions there. So let's just say hi to the audience, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, no, thanks, James. Really happy to be here and have a conversation about, I guess me and my journey, but also, the space of practitioners and how we interact is, they're a really big part of our organization. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, so our pleasure, my pleasure, and obviously some congratulations in order before we get rolling here. You were recently named finalist for the MLS NEXT Pro Executive of the Year and the first team winning the Western Conference Championship, playing Miami in the final, a tough loss to finish, but 90 minutes away from a championship in the MLS. You've been a part of constructing this on all levels, so congratulations on both of those recent accomplishments.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to be recognized. And I mean, I think it's always, it's a reflection. Any award that you get, it's a reflection of the team around you that you get to work with. And yeah, I'm very blessed to work at an organization where we have a lot of good people, and I've been fortunate to be in a club be at a club for this long, which I think it's been like 6.5 years, and building it together, and piece by piece, kind of having good people, but also having people grow around, myself included. And this year was really special, to go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup finals, win the Canadian Championship, and then win the Western Conference, go to the final, and unfortunately didn't go our way. But it was a really fun year, and I think it's just more of a reflection of years and years of work that's gone into it. And and I think personally, being from Vancouver, it was cool to see how the city got behind the team. It meant a lot to me, and I know to a lot of people in the organization.
No, I love that. And for our audience as well, as like at the time you were named, and I imagine it's still the case, like youngest
Yeah.
technical director in MLS. So not a small feat, and it's taken a lot of years and a lot of sort of twists and turns along the way. You're a hockey guy growing up, played a lot of hockey, and then transitioned over here. So maybe just walk our audience through how you ended up where you are now, and what that journey sort of in reflection, what that looks like.
Yeah, I'll try my best to summarize it. It was, I mean, I definitely didn't see myself working in soccer. I think if you talked to me 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been something that was on my radar. But there probably wasn't a lot on my radar, to be honest. In
Fair.
university, wasn't too focused on it. But I think, like, for me, like a really defining moment for me was like, I played hockey growing up, and played junior hockey, and I suffered a lot of concussions during my time there. And I moved away from home and played on the island, and I think just how I was treated during that time by the club. And I don't really blame anybody, and you move on from it, but it wasn't kind of handled properly. And you realize, as in reflection of where I am now, is like, we as or me at that point, like, I didn't have the tools and people around to help me. And I think when I decided to stop playing and then go to school, there was always something in me about, like, I'd love to do something involved with sport to try to help the next person that maybe is in a situation to help them. Again, I didn't expect that to be in soccer. I didn't expect it to be with the Vancouver Whitecaps or anything like that. But I guess I went to school and ended up, went to University of Western Ontario, and studied finance, and was always interested in numbers. And my first kind of opportunity was an internship with the Whitecaps that came across through a friend of a family, and said it was more about the player care and operations. And so I was like driving players around and helping them get cars and apartments, and for a summer, and it was a really good experience. But from there, pretty quickly, I guess my mindset changed a bit. Like, oh, maybe I could work in sport out of university. And Ended up taking on, I was always interested in data and the use of data around how we track performance. And so I ended up getting a role as like the head of analytics for the Western hockey team, and was traveling around, and that was fun. And then I got an internship with the league office in New York for MLS, which I think is a crazy place to go because the MLS rules are super complicated. And then I started a conference at Western, which ended up being a lot bigger than we thought, the Ivy Sports Leadership Conference. And then from there, then the Whitecaps in the league kind of gave me an offer to, once I graduated, to where I wanted to go. And I ended up making the decision to come work for the Whitecaps because they had just started a data science department like 3 months before. And I got to work with someone by the name of Johan Wint that James, you're familiar with. And Johan kind of mapped it out about trying to teach me how to use large data sets and help with making better decisions and impact performance. And I mean, I'm so grateful still to this day that Johan took a chance on someone that didn't know how to code and still kind of maybe doesn't know how to code that well. So, and I worked, with Johan for about 2 years. I mean, pretty much for 5.5 years until he took off. But under him and learning in data science for a couple of years. And then as I kind of grew there, and we got they made some changes at the club, and Axel Schuster was hired and as the sporting director, and he asked some questions. And I think leaning on some of my experience around data and being at the league office and knowing the league rules, was able to help him. And I think from there, like, we just kind of developed a really close relationship. And he gave me the opportunity to start the second team, which I'm incredibly grateful for. It's a tremendous project to start something from kind of the ground up. But every year, I mean, it's been a kind of a crazy roller coaster. Every year it's been more and more and more and more and more. And to the point now that, like, on a day-to-day basis, managing, all the departments in the soccer side. So whether that's medical, physical prep, equipment, scouting and recruitment. But I'd say, I mean, my main, what I really get evaluated on is how the team performs, but the building of the roster. But I think in our approach, we try to be a little bit more holistic. So anyways, that's a long spiel, but that's kind of how I got here.
No, it's beautiful, man. And it captures a lot. Like, obviously our audience may be a little bit more practitioner or student driven, or, younger practitioners just coming out, trying to find somebody to connect with. And the story isn't drastically different, right? The internships matter. The experience in sport matters. Being in different environment matters. Different environments matters. And then understanding sort of like this whole scale, like what's going to become important is what's important to us. But if we know everything is important, then it's a matter of where are we going to attach, how are we going to get good people in good places and do what's best on that holistic scale, like you said, for the club. And having been there, having had overlap with you, with Johan, with the performance prep team, the equipment, there is a very sound team in place behind the on-field product. And obviously wins and losses matter on the field. But two things that you touched on, obviously your experience with injury, and then data and looking at data and analyzing data. My experience with the Whitecaps was probably my first at any leverage in the soccer space as well. And the data usage is incredible in this sport in comparison to other sports, other organizations, and to make it meaningful instead of just throwing numbers out there is like, how do we connect with that? So wherever you want to go with that on sort of like data, the personnel, how that becomes meaningful within the club without giving any way to any trade secret. Your reliance, dependence, relationship with sports science and performance prep, those sort of staffs specifically.
I think that the use of data it's like another language. It's a way for us to connect, and it's a way for us to also consistently communicate in a similar way, right? So like, I think the beauty of data sets and automating things is that you can send out, you can have I consider more of a communication strategy, right? You have a post-match report on how we performed, and not, when I say performance, not about what was the score, but what were our objectives as a club, what were our objectives of what we wanted to get out of it, and not the outcome. And I think it's the same thing that is possible in the injury prevention and recovery space, is that we use it, data and reporting as a language that we can, send out to everybody. And we try to include as many people as possible, whether it's an email, whether it's a meeting, so that we're trying to drive a common language that people understand what we're looking for. And I think that's been something that, it's a moving target, because you need to always be focused on having both formal and informal lines of communication. I mean, I don't think it's that valuable if you send out an email every week and and nobody talks about it. You need to have some way to bring it together. But I think in our staff, we are a lean staff, I think, relative to other MLS clubs, and we need to be tighter. And that means that, everybody, we need to be all on the same page all the time. And I just think that the use and I think data sometimes turns into, okay, a bunch of numbers on a page, but sometimes, data to me is also about an expert's report that they put in, an expert's opinion, and that we're tracking that over time. How was someone's session? What was their outputs? And for us, it's important on our side. And I think this is something that's, maybe for your audience, is that, like, we have to make decisions, right? And we have to make decisions on the next transfer window. And getting the input, it's not just about us communicating. It's also, we really want to create a culture that people are comfortable in talking about stuff, because we need the information to make better decisions. And my job really with managing, all the departments across, is taking all of the best information to try to make the best decisions. And so we're really reliant on the people, and that relationship going both ways, I think, is really important.
Yeah, no, I agree, capture. And then for the audience as well, maybe just the breakdown of the club itself. There's the first team that everybody sees and knows about. There's a second team, Next Pro, and then there's an academy. There's staffs that are interwoven, or there are staffs with each individual. Maybe just provide that layout from again, like the technical and the performance and the therapeutic side, or the sport med side.
Yeah, so you'd have we have a first team, which is your MLS team. You have a second team, an MLS Next Pro. They travel, and then in they're kind of, let's call it, for hockey terms, like an AHL team, and then you have, your academy, which is a little bit different, where you have it from U15 to U18. And so our medical staff, is most heavy on the first team, and then you have a staff on the second team, and those two, work together very closely, because you have guys that move up and down consistently. In the academy, it's less so, because you have some guys coming in training, but it definitely gets more and more specific in terms of, like, the needs and how much care you get. I think the big, for us, what is connecting all these things is, again, back to what the data science department provides, is like reporting across all of those departments that are the same, or across all those teams. So performance reports, whether you're from the first team down to the academy, you get a performance report. Individual, it's tailored a bit, I guess, like, in the academy, it'd be much more about individual players' performance and trying to give them feedback, both from a physical standpoint. I think that's something that's really been strong in our club, whether it's all of their testing metrics, from when they're 14 all the way up to when they get to the first team, is that you have a breakdown of how they've tested and what were the interventions throughout all those periods of time. And that's documented and shared with the player and available to the coaches and the different staff. So, if I need to look up a player, I can see their records from the last few years and see how they've been doing and what they've been trending at. And not just, it's more about, even their availability and what's gone on. And so you can, there's so many players in a football organization that even, I think, for me, sometimes it's hard to track, right? So having these resources available, I think for me, more than knowing what's going on, is it makes it easier for everybody to have a common place to have a conversation about what's gone on, and trying to diagnose it, and trying to, if there is a problem, like an injury that's been going on for 12 months, and we can have I feel like within 15 minutes, you can sit down and have a meaningful conversation, rather than having to talk to 10, 15 people about what happened.
Yeah, and the physical space in Vancouver as well, again, for our audience, and having spent a little bit of time there, is set up so that the first team and the academy and the second team share a physical space. So everybody is in the building. There's a nice flow from the quote unquote treatment room, treatment center, sport medicine side directly into the gym, and directly out onto the pitch. So it has this nice sort of like fluidity to it. And I think in my experience in talking with you, not being recorded, now being recorded, is like that fluidity of conversation, that fluidity of I don't have to stay, by the treatment table just because I'm on that quote unquote team within the club. There's a nice flow transition to the performance prep coaches who are phenomenal at what they do. And everybody is communicating to the sports science are not behind the scenes whatsoever. They're on the pitch, analyzing, looking at data. They're in the gym doing some of the physical tasks that the players are doing, that the staff is doing, and everybody's kind of aware of what everybody else is doing. Everybody has a role, but there's also there's not the physical block between departments. It flows nicely, and hopefully it's the same in terms of your capture. That's mine in being there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's yeah, I think that it's also just the way the building's set up, and like it's not a huge building, so you naturally have a lot of flow between all the different teams, and yeah, and I think that the space in which I mean that the data science department is just for me, and I don't want to labor this at home. It's just I think it's a really good connector, between all the different departments, and allows us to maybe keep our team a little bit leaner.
Yeah, love that. And then again, back to the communication piece. You and I had a lot of conversations that were not, let's sit down and have a meeting. They just happen naturally in the space, over food, on a plane, on the side of a pitch, in the gym, if I ever made my way in there or whatever. Those kind of things during a workout, like it just seems to feel like that is a key component of what you do, of what you preach, and of what you value within your role as a technical director and trying to make things flow.
Yeah, I think from my side, being at the club for so long, and being around it, like I do, I care about the club a lot. And I think sometimes I wish I could turn my brain off a bit. But yeah. But I think when I'm in the building, it's just, I have so many things that are going on in my head, and I'm, I'm fortunate to know everybody, I think, pretty well. And so being able to, it's been always an objective of mine to try to make sure that we have open lines of communication, that we can speak openly, that they don't feel threatened about sharing their honest opinion. But I think that's really a two-way street, and something I take very seriously, that if you're going to give me your opinion and I disagree with it, then I might tell you that, but say it in a respectful way. But I want to hear it, and I think that we need to, no matter what department, whether it's in the medical space or this scouting recruitment, like I want to drive a space that people are comfortable sharing what they honestly believe and what they think is going to do to help us get better. And I think disagreements are part of that, as long as we can be respectful to one another and say, okay, well, this is your, maybe you don't have all the information. That's okay. Not everybody's going to have all the information. Maybe I don't have all the information, but as long as we're open and transparent about it, then, I like to think it leads you to better decisions.
Yeah. And on the sports medicine side, if we go a little bit specific to the first team and to the team that is sort of public facing, registered massage therapist, sport chiropractic, athletic therapists, physiotherapists, performance prep. These are the people that are doing the hands-on stuff. So it is a trans or an interdisciplinary approach to care for the athletes. That's not easy to manage at a clinic where, I don't know, you're seeing Joe Public, let alone within obviously a high performance professional atmosphere from a sporting side. I guess dialoguing there, is that of benefit to you, to the club, to have practitioners with different lenses and scopes so that you can cover everything? Does there end up being sort of, always there's going to be, again, like you mentioned, some disagreement as long as it's respectful, but in terms of approach, you have virtually every credentialed professional in the same space. So you have lots of different lenses, lots of different perspectives, unifying that, again, coming back to the data, like the data allows you to unify the approach there. Mm-hmm. Is that approach with the first team sort of, gold standard and tried to be applied down through Next Pro and down through the academy, or how does that work from a practitioner? Do the academy therapists have the opportunity to learn what's going on with the first team? The second team, do they have the opportunity to interact? Like, those are big pieces for our younger audience, or our audience that's in the space trying to find, like, what is best practice when it comes to a multidisciplinary approach in your world, I guess, in terms of, oversight of all of that?
Yeah, I think from an athlete's perspective, in the sense of what we want to provide, having all of the different disciplines is helpful. That we, can have a space, a controlled space where the guys can get what they need. I also agree with you. I think it's a good point you brought up about staffing, right? Like, obviously, we don't have. It's impossible or not financially feasible to have that staff for the second team and the academy. But for we typically have younger therapists in the second team in the academy, and I think it's important for them, and something we've been trying to drive a lot is the interaction between those in the first team and the practitioners in the academy and second team. And I think it is important, right, that they get to have that the first team has a staff that has different credentials but also different backgrounds, and because the hope is that we're hiring internally, right? If you're coming into the academy, then maybe the next steps in the second team and then the first team, and it's about the same as we talk about players and staff as well, as we want to have like a development and a pipeline and helping people grow, because I also think it's important. Yeah, it's important for people, no matter what you're at, what you do, to see that there's more, right? And we want to help develop them, and not just develop them as people, but also develop the skill set and the way that we do things, so that it's an easy transition. And so sometimes especially at home games, having some of the academy or the second team staff come and shadow and be around, but even more less formal, just being around in the facility. And I think our facility is helpful that way, that it's open and it's tight, so everybody kind of gets to interact with one another.
Yeah, love it. And I think that's important, obviously, for our audience, looking at how wherever you are, whatever you're doing, even in the academy or Next Pro, you're on the radar, right? Like when you're there, it's effectively you're on the radar of the club, to be doing good work, to be living by whatever values are set out by the team. We won't dive into what those are specifically to the Whitecaps, but to live that every day from a therapeutic standpoint or sports medicine team standpoint. If you laid it out like, I want that job because I get the logo on my shirt and maybe I get on Apple TV or whatever that happens down the road. What do the hours look like from a performance prep staff, from sport medicine side, like from your lens? That, like, I've been in it long enough to know that sort of like, it's not quite as just show up for the game and be on TV. There is some, early mornings sort of there and meetings and all those kind of things. But your capture of, I guess, the value of the staff and sort of time commitments from a staffing standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to just kind of state, like, I think we have just a fantastic group of people that, especially with the first team, like this year we played 53 games, which is crazy. And we do a preseason in Spain. Like, I have so much respect for what all the practitioners do and did this year, and we're really lucky to have them. So, yeah, I mean, I think on a day-to-day basis, I think it's usually early mornings, because we train around 10:30. So, most of the guys are in around 7. And I think maybe the positive is that, a lot of them leave maybe a little bit earlier than I do, around 2, which is fine, because, soccer players aren't going to be doing a 9 to 5. So a lot of the work, you can also do at home, if you don't have to be in the facility all the time. And I don't even have as much visibility on that. But I think it's the weekends and the travel that really add up. And it's time away from your family, which can be a challenge. And it's also why I have such deep respect for the people that work in our team, because, like we're going to go, in mid-January to Spain for 24 days straight. And then throughout the season, every game is 2 days away, a lot of weekends. And when you're on the road, it's not exploring cool cities. It's like we get in and maybe we get in at 8 p.m. and the guys are getting treatment until 1 o'clock in the morning, and the staff are working with the guys until they're ready to go to bed, right? So it is a tough job, but I think it's also really rewarding, and I think it's rewarding in the space of the team, right? Like, it's a team within the team. it's a team, even with the players that travel and being in that group, it's a really special bond. And I think we saw that a lot this year, like going to the finals and accomplishing some stuff. It's kind of what you do everything for. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, no, a nice little bow as we move into the holiday season here to put on everything and to put on this conversation, not to keep you longer, but let's just go to that vibe. Like Canadian Championship, that's 4 in a row. Am I right there?
Right there.
4 in a row. CONCACAF Championship as well. Finalist there.
Finalist there, yeah.
Finalist there. Finalist in the MLS, winning the Western Conference in the MLS. Like, what was the vibe like for you? What does that feel like when you're watching, when you're involved here? You're like, everybody wants to win. Everybody sees winners and all that. It doesn't happen regularly for most clubs, and so what does that energy feel like? What does your heart rate look like? What do you what does it feel like when you're watching sort of in some of those championship moments?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been more exhausted. I don't know, for any of those listeners that watch MLS, our game against LAFC, which is like in the conference semifinals, was like one of the wildest games ever. And I encourage you to watch the highlights if you have 10 minutes or whatever, because I don't think I've ever felt sicker, even though we won after the game. But that's just where my mind went when you said heart rate, because I think my resting heart rate was like 140, watching what was going on.
There's no resting. Yeah.
Just chilling out. Yeah, I think for me, like this year, what it means and what that feeling is about. I've said for a really long time that it's for us to be taken seriously in this market, and people want to follow the Whitecaps. We need sustained excellence and to show that we're different, right? And than how we have been in the past. And I think that's what meant a lot about this for me. Is seeing not just the performances and the confidence, and when you talk to guys, knowing that they really believe. Like I felt after maybe like 10 games this season that we had a really good start, but when you spoke to some of the boys, there was just a real, like, not cockiness, but just confidence, in themselves. And I think that's really hard. I've been on teams growing up and stuff like that. It doesn't happen every day that you have that level of confidence at like every game you go into. And I think for us, we wanted to add to that, and like adding a player like Thomas Muller was, I think it just kind of 2x'd it, right? Like when you have a player like Thomas on your team that's won so many trophies, and is from the time that I've known him is like a really special person. Helped us kind of take the next step as well, and have that internal confidence, because I think for a long time it's like we knew we were a good team, but it's like, oh, we're the Whitecaps, maybe we're a little bit plucky, maybe we win a couple games here. But yeah, I think this year that changed, and also I got to give credit to Jesper Sorensen, who's our head coach, and we changed a bit of how we played for those that don't watch the Whitecaps, and being more like ball dominant, and I think that's also a big part of this year in storyline. Is being, dictating the games. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of this year, because not just the results, but how it happened, being, having a swagger about us, but not a cockiness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And going into very tough situations and gutting out results was excellent. And yeah, for me personally, I think it's like I said at the kind of the beginning, the way the city that came around us and really embraced the Whitecaps this year is means a ton to me, and means a lot to a lot of people in this organization. And there's for the long-term future of the Whitecaps, it's also really, really important, and that's something that I think gets lost, because there was rumors at the beginning of the year about the club being for sale and whatnot. Rumors, I guess, a statement, right? So the team, the year that we had this year was, it just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to put into words how much it means to a lot of people, and how impactful it was for our club and in the city.
Yeah, no, amazing, man. And again, like, congratulations on all the success in building this. I know having the opportunity, completely grateful for your extra time here and doing this on a recording, but all the conversations that we have, passion, good humans, good people, a great club, a good setup physically, as well as who you're bringing in to continue to live the values and push those forward as a club, all the way from the bottom to the top, all the way from the top through to the bottom. That starts with, you and Axel and leading that from where you're at. And so for all of our listeners out there, he's Quinn Thompson, technical director with the Whitecaps. Amazing, man. I'd love to have you on again here and dive in on some other angles, but a brilliant capture of sort of how things operate there. And for our audience, it always starts with an opportunity, with an internship, listening, learning, being respectful, right? And just sort of understanding what you need to know to be good at what you do and to be a part of something bigger and serve something bigger, I think is captures from our conversation today from my side, Quinn. So listen, man, really appreciate it. All the best of the holiday season. I got to run. You got to run. Enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Make sure you get some downtime off that long season and heading into preseason here pretty shortly. So really appreciate your time, man, truly.
Thanks, James. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak a little bit about the organization and what we're doing. And yeah, always fun to talk, no matter what it is, if we're on a Zoom or just on the phone. So thank you. Thanks for your time, man.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Cheers.